On Thanksgiving, I received not a greeting, but a message from my son. Mom, you're no longer part of our family. I stared at the screen, memories flashing through my mind. His first steps, his school years, his wedding, where I held his hand. Everything erased in one line. The phone glowed in my palm like a small stove. The oven had already cooled. The air still held cinnamon and the ghost of roasted sage. Outside, a thin snow started without sound. I felt it before I saw it. The way the world smothers in white. The radiator in the living room clicked and hissed, the way old radiators do, like they are disagreeing with winter. I sat down at the kitchen table because standing felt foolish after reading that line. There was a slice of pumpkin pie on the plate and a fork with a small bite left on it. The bite tasted flat in my mouth. I put the fork down and wiped my eyes with the back of my wrist, then again with a tissue because I was raised to be neat even when I was crying. People say words cannot hurt you. They are wrong. Words change doors. You find yourself on the other side without a key. I read the message again, as if the letters might move away from each other and form a different sentence. Mom, you're no longer part of our family. I pressed the phone to my chest. My heart slowed. It is a strange thing how pain can make you very quiet. My son is named Paul. When he was small, he toddled around in a pair of blue socks with little rubber stars on the soles. He had a cowlick that would not lay down and a laugh that sounded like a hiccup. That is what I saw first. Then I saw his gap-toothed school pictures, the ones where I pressed his shoulders down and said, "Sit up straight." And he did, which made me proud. Then I saw his wedding day. My fingers wrapped around his hand for one extra second before I let the minister take over. He squeezed my fingers back even though the photographer was telling him to turn his chin. At the wedding, his new wife, Jenna, whispered something to him during the cake cutting. I could not hear it, but I saw his mouth curve and his eyes slide toward me. It was the first time I felt like a guest in a house I scrubbed. Still, I pushed it away. You do that as a mother. You say, everyone is nervous, everyone means well, tomorrow we will laugh at how tight the shoes were. I set the phone back on the table and took a breath that sounded like a sigh. Then I got up and turned off the porch light. No one was coming. The light did not need to waste itself on an empty step. When I tell you that this was not sudden, I am telling the truth. It was a long road to this line of text, a year of little cuts. His birthday dinner I was asked not to attend because the restaurant is fancy and there will be a tasting menu. The baby shower where I was handed the folding chairs and a list of errands while a distant cousin gave a speech. The way Jenna would take my granddaughter Mia from my arms and say bye-bye to Nana. We do not want her smell on the sweater. It is dry clean. Only, with a laugh that made it sound like a joke. I tried to make myself small for them. That is the terrible habit of love. The pies were out of the oven before noon. I cooked because doing was easier than thinking. I set the table for one because they said they were stopping by for dessert, not dinner. It did not sting when they said it. It was a fact, like the weather report. I set out the small plates and the second fork and the glass with a chip on the rim that only I remembered because a plate dropped on it in 1999. I stood by the window and watched the time on the microwave slide forward. Then the phone made its soft buzz. Mom, you're no longer part of our family. It arrived instead of I am on my way or traffic is terrible or save me a slice. I sat back down and made 3 lists on a notepad because when you cannot control your heart, you can still control paper. The first list said, call the bank, call Miss Patel, find the envelope. The second said, put the turkey bones in the freezer for soup, label leftovers, water the fern. The third said nothing. It was a blank page where my hand rested, the pen left a faint nervous dot. The envelope I wrote about on the list was in the metal filing cabinet in the guest room. Second drawer, it contained a copy of the promissory note I drafted 2 years earlier for the $80,000 I gave Paul and Jenna to help with the down payment on their house. It felt cold, calling it a promissory note even then, but the pen scratches kept me safe. It was money from my husband's life insurance and the sale of the cabin. The one where we used to take Paul when he was so small, he used a bucket as a hat. I did not give it as a gift. It was a loan with a fair interest rate and a clause that said it was payable in full if our relationship changed in a material and negative way. Ms. Patel called that the bad weather clause. We both smiled when she said it, like we were shopping for umbrellas we would never use. I knew where the envelope was because order is a comfort and because I had looked at it a dozen times since the cracks began showing. Each time I put it back, I told myself I was being dramatic. Each time I stood in the doorway and listened to the house, my house, tell me it was still mine. The house is a small, two-story built in 1924 with creaky stairs and windows that stick when humid. It sits on a narrow street lined with maples that turn the color of old pennies in October. The neighbor boy, Caleb, rakes my leaves without asking. His mother brings me a loaf of bread when she bakes. There are still good people in the world. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. I pulled the envelope out and set it on the bedspread. I am a widow, not a doormat. One line in that promissory note would change everything. They would regret the moment they decided to oppose me. But before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I put my phone beside the envelope, screen down. I did not want to see another line appear from Paul. I did not want to see nothing, which would be worse. I called the bank first. I asked to speak to Karen, the branch manager, because she has known me by name for 20 years. And because when my husband died, she was the one who printed out what I needed and said, "Take your time." She did not rush me, not even when the line was long. "Karen," I said when she picked up, "I need to remove an authorized user and freeze a card. I would also like to set alerts for any transfers." My voice sounded like I was reading instructions over a quiet radio. "Of course, Mrs. Lane," she said, and there was a gentleness there that made me stand up a little straighter. It took 10 minutes and 2 passwords and a code sent to my phone. We found that my credit card had a second card in Paul's name that he rarely used, and my checking had an automatic bill payment for Paul's property taxes set up for the last 2 quarters. I remembered visiting Jenna's kitchen 6 months ago and being handed my phone with a smooth laugh. "I will set that up for you. It is so easy. I do it for everyone. You always forget passwords." And I handed over my phone because I was stirring sauce and because I wanted to be kind. I closed my eyes and took it in. Then I asked Karen to stop those payments, remove Paul's user card, and mark the last 2 transactions for review. She said she would, and I could almost hear her nodding. "Do you want to set a note on the account, Mrs. Lane?" she asked. "So if someone calls pretending to be you, we will have a phrase only you know." "Yes," I said. "Let it be. I do not consent." We laughed, just a little. After the bank, I called Ms. Patel's office. The line went to voicemail because it was Thanksgiving. I left a message with my name and said I would be at her office on Monday. I said the word Monday like the word steady. Then I put the phone down and put the envelope back in the drawer. It had done its job by being ready. I made myself tea and stood by the sink, watching the snow pick up. Across the street, the little boy with the blue sled was sitting on the curb pouting because his father had made him put on a hat. I smiled without meaning to. The tea tasted like cinnamon and lemon. The lemon stung the place in my mouth where I had bitten myself in my sleep long ago, I think the night before my husband's biopsy. I used to think endurance was passive. It is not. It is work you do under your coat where no one can see. Late in the afternoon, I packed a box. It held the turkey I had carved, the extra rolls, and both pies. I put in a stack of paper plates because the church kitchen is always short, and plastic forks tied with a string. On top, I placed a towel to keep the heat in. Then, wearing my wool coat and the scarf my sister knit before she moved south, I took the box to the car. The church a few blocks over runs a community table on holidays. Miss Alma meets you at the door with a smile and a clipboard. The room smells like coffee and dish soap. The light is always a little too bright. The first time I went alone, I sat as if my chair had clear sides I could hide behind. The second time, Miss Alma handed me a ladle and said, "Help." So I did. When I brought the pies in, a little girl with hair like a squirrel tail said, "Pie," in a voice that was half hope and half claim. I told her she had good timing. We served plates and poured coffee, and I taught a boy to use the big knife without nicking his fingertips by tucking them under. A man with a red cap said grace so long the mashed potatoes cooled, and no one complained. I did not tell anyone about the message. I am not a public crier. But when the room clinked and hummed and the children ran between tables, the ache in my chest spread out into something under my ribs that felt like a knot loosening. I put a pie aside for Caleb and his mother. I set a plate for Miss Alma. I ate a slice warm enough to steam my lip. It tasted like pumpkin and nutmeg and relief. I did not make it for anyone else. It still tasted good. On Friday morning, the sky was the color of a metal pan left too long in the sink. I woke early, at the time my husband used to set for work. It is funny what your bones remember. I made coffee and sat with the marker pen and a stack of sticky notes and put notes on the things I needed to bring. The promissory note, my will, the title to the car, the binder with the tabs that said insurance, house, health, numbers. It is an ugly binder, but it is a brave binder. I have had to be my own clerk for a while. At 10, someone knocked. I knew the knock because it has force but not patience. It is Paul's knock. I did not freeze. I looked at the door and I breathed. Then I unlocked it and stood behind it. He came in with the cold on his coat. He had not shaved. His eyes were red. He looked at me and then past me like he expected the house to apologize for me. He was holding his phone in his hand like a small shield. "Mom," he said, as if he had not typed the sentence. "We should talk." "Yes," I said. "We should. Take off your coat." He left it on. He stood there, arms folded. "Jenna is furious," he said. "You embarrassed us at the bank yesterday. You made it look like we were stealing from you. Jenna was paying your taxes this year. It was a gift. The only taxes paid from my account were for your house," I said. "I do not need a gift like that." He looked like he would laugh. He did not laugh. He looked around at the room, at the plant by the window, and the framed picture of his kindergarten handprint, where the blue paint is darker in the center, where his small palm pressed down twice. He could have said he was sorry. He did not. "You made it so hard to include you," he said, and I could hear Jenna's voice behind the words, smooth and clean. "You make everything heavy." Dad used to say that too, "You make everything heavy." My husband never said that. He said other things, some of them hurting, many of them good, but not that. "Why did you send that message?" I asked. "There is no point in dancing around a knife." He flinched. "You know why." "The Facebook post. The way you told Aunt Louise about Jenna's new job before she could. The way you told Mia she did not have to eat if she was full. You undermine us. You never take Jenna seriously. You call her dear, like she is 5. You show up when we do not invite you." "I rushed to your house when you said Mia had a fever," I said. "I brought soup." "She did not need soup," he said. "She needed space." It was like arguing with a mirror that showed only your nose. "I did not come to fight with you," he said, using the voice people use when they have come to fight with you. "I came to tell you that if you want to be part of this family, you need to follow our rules. You cannot use money to control things. You cannot threaten us with your lawyer." He had read my mind, but wrong. I had not threatened him. I had called a woman who knows how to put words on paper in the correct order so that people do not bleed each other dry. "You texted me that I am no longer part of your family," I said. "That is not a rule. That is a wall." He looked at the floor, then up. His chin tilted, stubborn. I saw the cowlick again. It made my stomach flip the way a camera does when the picture clicks. "I was angry," he said. "Jenna was crying." "You should not make her cry. If you want in, apologize. To both of us. Put the bank stuff back. Take down any posts that mention us. Stop talking to Aunt Louise. No more surprise visits. And stay out of our finances. We will invite you to things when it makes sense, We will let you know when you can see Mia. We will let you know. I hear you, I said. My voice surprised me again. It did not shake. I will not apologize. I will not accept rules that make me a shadow. I will not be let in to a house I built. And I will not beg to see my granddaughter like a reward chart. He shifted his weight. The silence built between us like a scaffolding. He climbed it with his anger. You will regret this, he said. Do not cut your nose to spite your face. I have my nose, I said. What I do not have is a son who is kind. I cannot grow one for you. I can only decide where to sit. He put his hand on the chair back and squeezed until the knuckles went white. Then he let go. He sniffed and wiped his face with his sleeve. He looked like 13 again. After a baseball game he lost, when he accused the umpire of bias, then, as now, he did not want to hear that he had simply swung late. Jenna thinks you used the loan to control us, he said. She says you dangled it. She says you asked for the receipts. She says you keep score. I asked for the receipts because I am a widow on a budget, I said. I asked for them so I could calculate interest properly. I asked for them so I would not forget what I had done. There is a difference between keeping score and keeping records. He shook his head. It is all the same to you. Numbers and rules. No one feels safe around you. He meant Jenna. He meant himself. He meant no one. Paul, I said, because sometimes a word is a hand. Come sit. Have coffee. I cannot, he said. I have to go to Jenna's parents. They have family who do not make a scene. He walked to the door. He hesitated. He looked back like he wanted a line to reach for. I did not throw him one. You learn when not to throw yourself. Mom, he said, and his voice broke a little, boyish and old. Why are you like this? Because I am a person, I said, and because I love you. Those two things do not cancel each other out. He did not answer. He opened the door. Cold came in. He left it open. I walked past him and closed it softly because slammed doors do not make people gentle. After he left, I washed the cup he did not use. I dried it and set it on the shelf. Then I wrote another list. Monday, 9 a.m., Ms. Patel. Tuesday, county clerk if needed. Wednesday, print letters. On Monday, I wore the navy cardigan with the good buttons and walked to Ms. Patel's office. It is on the second floor above a shoe repair shop. The stairs smell like glue and coffee. Her office is the neat kind with a plant that looks like it has never known thirst. She looked at me over her glasses and said, Mrs. Lane, with a kindness that is not pity. Then she gestured to the chair and I sat and I opened my folder. I received a message from my son, I said. I have it here, but I do not want to show it. I know what it said. I want to make 3 moves. Tell me, she said, and the way she says it makes telling easy. First, I said, we will send a letter to Paul and Jenna reminding them of the terms of the loan. We will include an accounting and a demand for full repayment in 60 days per the clause stating a material and negative change in relationship. I want it to be clean and factual, no adjectives. She nodded and started writing. Second, I said, we will revise my will. I want the house placed into a trust with a life estate to me. Upon my death, I want it offered to the city's scholarship foundation to be used as a stipend for women returning to school after widowhood, or to be sold with proceeds to the same. I want to ensure that no family member contesting my will receive anything beyond $1, and only if they do not contest. I want the language firm. I want Mia included personally with a small trust of her own. If, at age 25, she initiates contact with me with kindness, which does not require forgiveness. I want a letter to her in the file, even if it is never read. Ms. Patel's pen paused on that line and then continued. Third, I said, I want to revoke any powers of attorney that might exist. I want the bank to have a copy. I want my utilities and property tax accounts in my name only. And I want a cease and desist letter drafted to Jenna for accessing my accounts without permission, citing the 2 property tax payments and the login she set up on my phone. I do not wish to press charges. I want the line drawn and the record clear. She looked up then, and she did not say, "Are you sure?" She said, "We will do this." We reviewed the promissory note. We made a neat schedule of payments made and interest due. We printed the letter. I ran my hand over the paper as if it was a blanket. We drafted the trust documents simple and tight. We found a notary. He had a stamp with a satisfying click. I signed my name, the one I have had since I was 19, and took my husband's last name with my heart in my hands like a bird. I added my original name as a middle name now to tie the ribbon so that the knot would be mine. Ms. Patel slid a lined pad toward me. "Do you want a short letter to Mia for the file?" "Yes," I said. I kept it plain. "Dear Mia, I am your Nana. I love you. Love is not permission to be unkind. Money is a tool, not a leash. When you are older, if you want me, I will be easy to find. I will not ask you to choose sides. I will listen. Love, Grandmother." Ms. Patel placed it with the trust. "Now the mail," she said. We prepared 2 envelopes, one to Paul, one to Jenna, with the demand and the revocations. I filled out the green, certified mail cards slowly, pressing hard so the copies were clear. Names, addresses, return receipt requested. The post office was across the street. I walked over, handed the envelopes to the clerk, and watched the date stamp land, firm, final. She slid the receipts back to me. "You'll get the cards once they sign," she said. Keep them." I nodded. I would. When I stepped into the hallway, my phone buzzed. A number I did not know. I answered. "Mrs. Lane?" "This is Barbara, Jenna's mother." Her voice was smooth and cold. "This is inappropriate. You are upsetting everyone. Family issues shouldn't involve lawyers. Please rescind these letters." "No," I said. "This is the agreement they signed. I am keeping things clear." "You'll never see Mia again," she said. "That may be true for a time," I said. "I won't use fear to undo a boundary." "You're being dramatic." "I'm being careful," I said. "I hope you have a peaceful day." I ended the call. I saved the voicemail, then labeled it, Barbara, record. Back upstairs, Ms. Patel handed me neat copies of everything and a small checklist. Letters sent, receipts filed, bank notified. I put the papers in my folder and stood. My hands were steady. The work was simple. Write, mail, keep records. The rest would come when it came. When I left, the sky had cleared. The snowmelt made the sidewalks wet. The air smelled like penny water. I stopped at the bank and left a copy of the revocations with Karen. She walked me to the safe deposit room and made sure my binder fit and told me she would call me if the fraud department needed more from me. I walked home holding my purse close under my arm, not because anyone would take it, but because it felt good to hold on to something. The letters went out Wednesday. On Thursday morning at 8, a delivery truck parked in front of my house. 2 men carried a new washing machine into the house next door. The old woman who lives there stood on her stoop in a nightgown and cried because it was too generous. The men told her their boss had a soft spot for grandmothers. I wondered who their boss was and hoped he kept his job forever. At 11, there was a knock. It was gentle. When I opened the door, Jenna stood there. She had on a wool coat the color of oatmeal. She looked tired in the way expensive people get tired, pale, smooth, empty. She held the letter with the demand. Her hands shook. "This is cruel," she said. "You will make us sell the house." "This is the agreement," I said. "We all signed." "I wanted to help you start. I did not offer to carry you forever. You told me I was no longer part of your family. That changes everything. I will not subsidize my own erasure tears," pooled on the ledge of her lower lashes, and sat there, bright and theatrical. She did not blink. "You hate me," she said. "I do not hate you," I said. "I do not even know you. You have never let me know you. You have let me cook and drive and pay, but not know." She took a step forward as if she would come in without being asked. I did not move. She stopped. She was good at reading, standing still when it mattered. "You will not see Mia again," she said. "Not like this." I will not see Mia this year, I said. I am grateful you said it like a weather forecast. The weather changes. I am ready for that too. Threats are loud. The truth arrived folded in lined paper. My revenge was in bringing justice to our family. She made a sound like a laugh that had lost its breath. Then she turned and walked to her car. Before she got in, she put her hand on the roof as if to steady herself and stood looking at the street. The maples were bare. The snow had shrunk into the edges. It was a hard season for beautiful things. The 60 days ticked by. During that time, I did not text Paul. He sent one message asking if we could negotiate. I replied that we could, with Ms. Patel present. He did not reply again. On day 59, a cashier's check arrived by courier. It was for the full amount plus interest. The envelope had no note. I held the paper like it was heavy. Then I set it on the table and called Miss Patel. We closed the note. We signed the release. We filed it. It took 6 minutes. 2 years of history, 6 minutes to end one chapter. The house was very quiet when I got home. I hung up my coat and looked at the attic cord. I stepped onto the second stair to catch it. The bulb clicked on. Dust hung in the air like flour. 3 boxes waited against the far wall. My handwriting on the sides: Paul, early, Paul, school, Paul, sports. I opened the early box first. On top were the blue socks with the little rubber stars. They were dry now, a little sticky to the touch. I held them to my chest and closed my eyes. I could hear the sound he made when he laughed with his whole body. It shook my arms when I carried him. I put the socks in my lap and breathed until my hands stopped shaking. The school box held the blue handprint, the center darker where he pressed twice. A Polaroid from his first day of preschool, hair sticking up, smile to one side. A crayon house with 2 tall chimney. He used to worry the smoke would get trapped. I remember telling him it will find its way out. I wish words always worked like that. The sports box smelled like leather and summer. His first glove sat on top, too small now, still shaped to his hand. A little bike bell with a dent from the day he turned too close to the mailbox and still looked back to see if I was watching. I always watched. A small green dinosaur, tail snapped off. I smiled in spite of myself. I kept that silly thing in my purse for a year once, just to be ready when he cried in the car. I did not hurry. I sat on the floor and made a small pile for me and a small pile for Mia for when she is older. For me, the handprint, the Polaroid, the glove. For Mia, the socks, the bell, the dinosaur. I found a shoebox and lined it with tissue from an old scarf. I set the socks and bell and dinosaur inside. I added my pumpkin pie recipe in my neatest hand. On a plain card, I wrote, "For Mia, to be given if she asks for me when she is 25. Love, Nana." I did not write anything else. Simple is strong. I put the lid on the box and laid both hands on it. The boards were cold through my socks. I cried, but softly, the way you do when you do not want to wake the house. I was not crying to change anything. I was crying because I loved someone and I had to put that love in a box for later. That felt both right and cruel at the same time. I let it be both. On the way back down the stairs, I heard a quick knock at the back door. It was Caleb from next door, pink-nosed, holding a school fundraiser sheet to his chest. "Miss Lane, do you want chocolate or wrapping paper?" he asked, hopping a little to keep warm. "Both," I said. "Come in for a minute." He wiped his boots on the mat without being told. His eyes went to the glove in my hand. "You play?" he asked. "I used to catch," I said. "My husband threw fast. I like to prove I could handle it." He grinned. I held out the glove. He slid his hand inside and flexed. It fit him just right. "It needs oil," he said, trying to sound casual. "You can keep it," I said. "Use it hard. Bring it back if it does not feel like yours." His face went red in a new way. "Serious?" "Serious," I said. He nodded so hard his hat slipped over one eye. He fixed it and left with the glove and the order form. I checked boxes for 2 chocolates and 4 rolls of paper I will find a use for in July. After he went, I carried the Mia box to my bedroom and set it beside the Brave binder. On Monday, I would put it in the safe deposit box with everything else. Not a secret, a promise. Downstairs, the kitchen smelled faintly of cinnamon and coffee. I washed my hands. The water ran cold, then warm. I wiped the counter and felt the smooth spot my husband oversanded years ago. The house remembers us in small places. It calmed me. I wrote a short note for Ms. Patel. Please add a box labeled Mia, hold for later, to my file. Give it to her only if she asks for me with kindness when she turns 25. Thank you. I slid the note under the binder strap so I would not forget. Before I turned off the light, I took the blue socks out once more and pressed them flat between my palms like a blessing. Then I put them back in the box. Boundaries and love can live in the same house. I am making room for both. I used part of the money to fund the trust for Mia and part to endow the small scholarship in my husband's name at the community college, the one tucked behind the high school where the bleachers always look half asleep in winter. The scholarship is for one woman per year over 45, who must write a letter, not about her suffering, but about the things she is learning that makes her eyes look forward again. I wrote the description myself. Ms. Patel told me it was unusual, and I told her I was too. I notified my church that I wanted to sponsor 2 community table dinners per year for the next 5 years. Miss Alma cried in a way that was the opposite of theater. She put her head on my shoulder like a daughter who is older than me and younger at the same time. I got into the habit of taking my tea on the porch at dusk, even in the cold. The sky turns the color of slices of peach that you left in the bowl too long. Caleb would pass and show me the latest magic trick he had learned from the internet. He makes a coin disappear and then pulls it from behind my ear. I pretend to be amazed every time, because I am. On a Wednesday in late January, I found an envelope in my mail that was addressed by a hand that looked like it had practiced holding a pen for a while. The stamp was crooked. The return address was Paul Street, but not his house number. It was the house next door. I turned the letter over and then back again. I made tea before I opened it because sometimes hot hands make reading easier. Inside was a lined piece of paper with a few sentences. The letters were careful and dark. Hi, Nana. It is Mia. I am 8.5. Mom does not like when I say half, but I do. I think about the pie. I miss the smell of your house. I asked if I could send you a letter, and Mom said no, but Ms. Ann next door said I could use her mailbox, and she would not tell. I am not allowed to lie, but I think this is not a lie. It is a secret. Do not be mad at Mom. She is upset a lot. I started reading a book about a girl who likes horses. I like horses, but I am scared of their teeth. I want to come over when I am a teenager because I think teenagers can make their own choices. I will wear my coat this time because you always ask, and I do not want you to ask. I like the pie. I said that already. Love, Mia. There was a picture drawn on the back. It was a house with a tree. The tree had circles for apples and a swing that looked like a big smile. You cannot hang your life on a child's letter. You cannot fling yourself into hope like a lake in winter. But you can put the letter in a safe place, and you can bake a pie on a day that is not a holiday, and you can plan your porch time for when the school bus goes by. You can stand up inside your life and know its shape. On a soft Thursday in March, I ran into Paul at the grocery store. It was the middle aisle, the one with paper towels and cat food stacked like a wall. He was alone. He looked older around the eyes. He looked like he had not slept well. He saw me and stopped, and for a moment forgot he was supposed to be angry. Then he remembered, or tried to. His mouth settled into the new shape he had chosen. You can tell a lot by someone's mouth when they are not talking. Mom, he said. Paul, I said. We stood there with the paper towels between us like neighbors deciding who had first dibs on a plow. How are you? He asked. And I almost laughed because it was such a normal question and we were not normal. I am well, I said. I am learning to play the piano again. Slowly, I am teaching Caleb down the street to cook rice without making it paste. I sponsored a scholarship. He blinked. His face softened and then tightened. Jenna says you tell everyone our business, even strangers, even the bank. The bank is not a stranger, I said. They hold my money. As for everyone else, I talk about my life. You put yourself in it when you change it. He looked down at his basket. There were apples and a box of cookies and a jar of sauce. He was holding a can of cat food he did not have any cat for. He put it back on the shelf as if it had burned him. I miss you, he said, very quiet. I thought if I said that to you, it would give you the power again. Now I think maybe you already had it, or maybe no one has it. I miss you too, I said. Missing is not a currency. We do not owe each other debt for it. He wiped his hand over his mouth. He looked at me in a way that reminded me of the day he rode his bike without training wheels, how he wobbled and then balanced and then looked back, wanting me to see him. I saw him now. That did not change the paper we had signed. It did not change the evenings I had sat with my hands open. I do not know how to fix this, he said. Then stop trying to fix me, I said. Fix your memory. I loved you. I love you. That is not a weapon. That is a place. You can come there or not. I will not chase you out into the snow so you can tell me I am wet. The intercom crackled then with a price check and a cheerful song. He laughed, one breath, surprised. Then he nodded, as if we had agreed to something. We had not. But we had agreed not to shout in the paper towel aisle. That is more than nothing. By summer, the scholarship had its first recipient. Her name was Linda. She wore a blue dress to the small ceremony under the maple by the community college entrance. I brought lemonade. She brought her grandson, who carried the folding chair like it was a suitcase to a country he had never been to. Miss Alma held my hand for a second and squeezed. I sat at my piano many afternoons. My fingers were clumsy. I am not one for big cymbals. A piano is wood and wire and sound. Still, there is something about pressing a key and hearing a thing respond. I learned the water is wide with both hands. It took me a month. When I played it all the way through, I put my head down and cried a little, and then I played it again. On Thanksgiving the next year, I did not set extra plates. I baked 2 pies, but I cut one at the church and left the other on my porch wrapped in a towel. It was 9 in the evening when a car slowed in front of my house and then kept going. At 10, someone came up the steps and put something at my door. The steps creaked in that second-to-last step way that always makes me think of my husband's heavy walk. When I opened the door, there was a small bouquet of grocery store flowers, the ones wrapped in plastic and still wet from mist. The card said, "Thank you for the scholarship." It was signed by a name I did not know. I brought the flowers inside and found a jar. The water smelled like the hose when you first turn it on in June. The flowers were yellow and silly and perfect. I set them next to the pie. I turned off the porch light because the porch did not need to call out to the street anymore. It would be clean to say that Paul called the next day and apologized and brought Mia over in a wool coat, and that Jenna stopped looking through me like a window. That is not what happened. What happened is slower. What happened is letters, 3 in a year, written in pencil from a girl with careful lines, one picture of a horse with a good mouth, one long quiet in the middle where nothing arrived and I did not die from it, one small knock at my door in spring, not them, but a neighbor's child who had outgrown his coat and wondered if I knew anyone who needed it. I did. Revenge is a word people use when they think winning means the other person is under your thumb. I am too old to keep things there. My hands shake when I hold them that way. What I did was draw the borders of my life with a pen that does not smudge. What I did was refuse to pay for a seat in a room where I had to apologize for breathing. I canceled the open bar they expected from my savings. I closed the line of credit that ran straight through me. I chose a table where people pass plates without counting who took more. When the bill came, we all put our hands in and someone laughed because the money we laid down was not only bills, but gratitude. The message did not erase me. It made me write myself in ink. After this, would you ever give family a loan, or is it gifts only, or nothing at all? Share your opinions in the comment section.
My grandma told me this story I have many more stories. Subscribe so you don't miss the most interesting things.